Good day and welcome back to the Hughes Kitchen. We are going to do one more in our Thanksgiving series today, and that is gravy. Now, if you want to be the hero of your next Thanksgiving, and typically your family does gravy from a can, then this homemade gravy is going to set you apart and people will be begging for it. I had a friend talk to me the other day. We were mentioning gravy, and a story came up about somebody who loved gravy so much he would just pour it into a cup and just steal it away and drink it. And it always disgusted him because he was only used to gravy from a can. Now, while that is a bit extreme to take gravy from in a mug and drink it like a thick cup of coffee, when you have a fantastic gravy, I can completely understand. So here's the secret to gravy. The secret to gravy is called a roux. It's a French term for essentially a mixture of fat and flour that is cooked together and then to which you add liquid. Now, in my case, I'm going to be using butter and all-purpose flour. Other non-wheat flours may not give you the best results because it has to do with starch and how it interacts with the heat. I'll have to do some research to see if that is even possible before I can safely recommend something that isn't flour. However, other types of fat are perfectly acceptable. Again, I'm using butter today. If you have turkey fat that's like separated out from your roast bird, that's a perfect thing to add for a Thanksgiving gravy because that turkey fat has a lot of flavor and it's going to really amp up the flavor of your gravy. So the first thing we do is I'm going to turn on our heat here, and I'm going to start at just about a medium heat. And while we wait for that to come up to temp here, first thing we're going to do is we're going to melt our butter into the in the pan, the pot, as it were. And once the butter is fully melted, we'll add in our flour. I'm just stirring it to give it a little bit of expose the butter to more heat. I did turn up the heat a little bit just to get it melted, but in general, once it's fully melted, I'll put it back down the middle because you don't want the heat to be too high while doing this. All right, now that our butter is mostly melted, we're going to add in the flour. And what we want to do right now is cook that flour in the fat. And you see it gets a kind of a little bit of this pasty type look here. That's good because what we're doing now is we're essentially toasting the flour in fat. And what I want to do is I want to actually get in close and want to smell. And I should be, as long as it smells like raw flour, I want to keep cooking it. Now it's starting to smell a little toasty, a little nutty, and that's when I know it's right. If I'm going to go any deeper, then what I have is a dark roux, and that's for different purposes. What I'm going to do is I've got about a cup and a half of gravy, or of chicken stock here. I just used better than bouillon this time. And notice how it just thickened right up there, all over medium heat. Now it's all this paste, right? Just super thickened up. That's the starch from the flour working. I'm just going to add a little more. And it looks nasty right now. It's okay. I'm just going to keep stirring. Keep the heat on. Keep the stirring going. And actually, I can switch here to a whisk even. That'll help me get it smooth again real quick. Adding a little more. I can turn up the heat once you get it mostly melted. You're gonna need a little bit more heat to activate that starch. Once again, you can see it's thickened up again. And I was using about 2 tablespoons of butter here and 2 tablespoons of flour, and that's key. You want to have equal amounts fat and flour, and that's what's the key to a good roux. Now you can see it's thickening up again. A little more liquid. Get a touch more heat, so you're not waiting all day on this. Here's the last of our sauce, or our stock, broth. Now we have a bit of a thin gravy, so we're going to let it come up to heat again. And once you have it at this stage, now's the time to start testing it. You can see how it runs off and in close to boiling here. Look at that. There we have our gravy. Now I can just taste it. What we have, silky, thick. It's going to pair excellent with your bird or your mashed potatoes. This works even better with homemade stock that you may make out of the bird carcass. But I'll even do another video on the carcass and how to make a really good stock from a carcass, because there are definitely some tricks to that as well. So there we have it. We have our gravy ready for your Thanksgiving party. And once again, you're going to want to season this. Make sure it's got enough salt. Always add a little at a time. This is plenty salty because that better and bouillon is plenty salty. And I used, I think, 2 teaspoons, which is roughly 2 cups worth of bouillon. And that was just a cup and a half of liquid. So anyway, try this out. Don't be afraid. If it starts to seize up and look like a curdle, it's okay. Just keep stirring and adding liquid. You want to get it to the point where it's going to, as you keep the heat on and keep the liquid going in, if it looks all curdled and stuff, just keep stirring, whisking, adding a little more liquid. Not all of it at once. Just add enough that it's kind of a mix of liquid and curdle, and keep stirring it until it kind of smooths out. You might be surprised at just how foolproof it is if you just keep at it. All right. Let me know what you think. Give it a try.